שלום לכולן ולכולם, אנחנו בפודקאסט נוסף בענייני לימודי רפואה באנגלית באירופה, והפעם נמצא איתנו סגן הדיקן של הפקולטה השלישית לרפואה של אוניברסיטת צ'ארלס בפראג, דוקטור דיוויד מרקס. Good evening, David.
Good evening.
Hi. Thank you for joining us. Can you give us a brief explanation and introduction about the Charles University and the medical faculties that are at the university?
Yeah, the Charles University is one of the oldest universities in Europe and the oldest in the region northern of the Alps. It's been founded in 1348. And at that time, it had 4 faculties: faculty of law, faculty of philosophy, faculty of theology, and faculty of medicine, one faculty of medicine. In 1953, this faculty has been divided into 3 medical schools, which are now called first, second, and third medical school. Apart from that, we have one medical school in Pilsen and one in Hradec Králové. Those are regional cities outside Prague.
Many people don't really understand the names first, second, and third, and they think it's grading of the faculties. What were the original names before it was first, second, and third?
There are no original names because, actually, yes. Well, until 1953, it was one medical school. Then it was divided into Faculty of General Medicine, Faculty of Pediatrics, and Faculty of Hygiene and Public Health. This was following the Soviet example. In 1989, all this has been returned back, and there are plans in integrating the 3 faculties again into one. However, this was not politically acceptable for the deans of the individual medical schools. So there was a decision that they'll be numbered 1, 2, 3. Actually, there was a draw at that time. It was in 1990, and this draw has allocated numbers to individual faculties.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's just a name and not anything else.
Yeah, it's just a name. Czech Republic is a member state of the European Union. And as you know, the European Union regulates medical studies. So the content of medical studies has to be the same across all the member states. And that is a requirement that we follow too.
All right. And that brings us next to the curriculum or the way that you teach. The third medical faculty has a unique curriculum, especially in the first and second academic years. Can you?
And the third and fourth and the fifth and the sixth. So actually, we have decided in the 90s to make lemons out of lemonade when the 3 faculties have stayed divided. Our faculty was a relatively small one. At that time, we had 60 to 70 students in 1 year. And we have decided to follow the change in undergraduate medical curriculum, which was at that time introduced by universities of Maastricht, Munich, Oxford, and Cambridge, and replace the traditional teaching, starting with anatomy and continuing with physiology, by integrating topics and integrating subjects, and also switching from the classical classroom and lecture teaching style into integrated and problem-based teaching. So in the first year, students start with the cell. They are taught a huge subject called cellular basis of medicine, which encompasses biochemistry, molecular biology, genetics, immunology, and histology. And in the second year, the traditional beginner anatomy is integrated with physiology into a huge subject called structure and function of human body. This level of integration and problem orientation, for instance, we don't teach lungs, heart, and so on, but for instance, In the second year, we teach anatomy of the heart in the same week when physiologists teach function of the heart and biochemists gas exchange. So that's the main difference from the classical curriculum, but it's not so unique. As I said, there were many universities starting with it at the beginning of the 90s. From what I know, Israeli universities have a similar approach, problem-based and integrated curriculum, and it is something that probably will one day overtake all medical education because of the amount of information that exists.
So the junior students, they come to the faculty. When do they start to meet the hospital and the patients area?
That's another specific feature of our faculty is early exposure to patients. So actually in the first year and second year, we have a subject that is called Introduction to Clinical Medicine 1-2. When students go to the hospitals, go to long-term care facilities, they are trained how to communicate with patients, they are shown how a hospital functions. Naturally, they cannot do the doctor work, but they start discussing issues with patients, and mainly the goal is to teach them to understand what does it mean to be a patient, a chronically ill patient. What are the impacts on the patient? What are the impacts on the family? What are the impact on others? That's why they spend 3 weeks during the summer holidays after the first and second year, working either in a long-term care facility or in an emergency room, not as junior doctors, but as someone to be a doctor and responsible to understand, to train their empathy and to understand the background of the issues which accompany illnesses.
After these, when do they start the clinical rotations? Like after the
clinical rotations start in the third year, slowly after an integrated exam in pathology and pathophysiology. They start with hematology and oncology because that's a subject that's closest to the cellular principle of teaching. Also, there's a subject that integrates microbiology and infectious diseases in this year, and basic surgery. Following that, especially in the fourth year, there are blocks that are system-based. So, for instance, there is a mother and child block, there is a respiratory and circulation block, there is a trauma block, and so on and so forth, that integrates clinical disciplines together with pathophysiology. Fifth and sixth year, these encompass clinical rotation in the classical view, such as surgery, internal medicine, pediatrics, and so on.
And does the faculty allow students to do some of the clinical rotations outside of the faculty, such other countries in Europe, the States, or Israel
not
is in
only
Israel?
not only other countries in Europe. We have around 300 students per year. 200 of them are studying in Czech and the rest in English. And even the Czech students are motivated to spend their clinical rotations outside the university hospitals, in the regional and district hospital, or abroad. For students studying in English, it's advisable that they spend their clinical rotations, both summer clinical rotations, that we have a lot of them, and the clinical rotations during the studies, especially in the fifth and sixth year, in their own country, which not only alleviates the communication issues because they speak their own language, but also shows them how the healthcare systems in their specific countries work.
So in Israel, with which hospitals do you have agreements?
We have formal agreement with Shiba and with Clalit, but Israeli students spend their rotations in many other hospitals, not only in these two systems.
So how does it do? They fly, they do the clinical rotation, they come back, they do the exam in Czech, and vice versa?
Oh, they don't do it. They do the exam in English, but as I said before, the medical studies are regulated by European Convention. So it's the university that is responsible for checking knowledge of the students. So after these rotations, they come back and they undergo exams in Prague.
Do you have measurable achievements of your graduates that you can say, okay, we know that we did a good job and we have good doctors that came out of our faculty?
Well, one
Czech
of them,
and international as well.
One of them is pass rate. We have a pretty high pass rate. The dropout is between 8 to 11% over the whole studies. And you have to consider that this dropout is not only based on failure. The dropout may be based on the fact that some students come to a point when they find out that medicine is not what they wanted to study, because they start at a pretty early age, although the Israelis start a little bit later. So that's the dropout rate. That also shows that we are giving the students as much chances as possible, supporting them and providing consultations so that they finish their medical studies. Then we have some numbers from the USMLE. Our graduates undergoing USMLE have success rate between 80 to 87%, which is also pretty high. The feedback from clinical units where they start working is more or less informal. But in general, I must say that actually, also given the fact that the content of the studies is standardized, there's not a lot of difference between general knowledge of medical graduates in the Czech Republic. But what we frequently hear, both from the students and from their supervisors, is that our graduates have much better ability for differential diagnosis, for sort of thinking out of the box, and also, fortunately, for integrating their knowledge. So we try to teach them the way physicians think, because if I see a patient in my clinic, I'm not first looking at her with a view of anatomy, then physiology, then biochemistry, but I'm having an integral overview, and that is what this integrated system teaches them.
Speaking of ranking and success, ranking of universities this is a question that I'm being asked quite frequently. Rankings are for the universities in general and are not going to the level of faculties. So when we say Charles University is ranked 89th place in the world, it's all the university.
All the disciplines, from languages through theology, physical education, and medicine. So it's a university ranking mainly based on scientific outputs.
Yeah. So we spoke about the curriculum more or less, and beyond the curriculum, what do you offer to your students?
Well, we have this paradigm that a good doctor does not only have the technical knowledge. A good doctor masters medicine as art, knows how people think, has a high level of empathy. And that's why we support all activities that strengthen the social role of physicians. We support volunteering programs. Many of our students volunteer, for instance, in this medical center for homeless people that was actually founded by our students. Or they volunteer as educators in schools where they educate first aid. In older students, they educate sexual health. They also provide education to poor populations of chronically ill. But students enjoy their life. So we have a hockey team, we have a football team, a volleyball team, a basketball team. We have a chess team that was founded by one of our Israeli students. We have 2 choirs. We have a drama group. We have a lot of art disciplines such as classic music, photograph. So you name it, and we have it.
So this is At the faculty, not of the university.
At the faculty level.
It's a lot of activities for not a very big faculty. Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, now we are a pretty big faculty. We have 300 students per year.
Yeah,
But first of all, when selecting students, we give the same importance to their intellectual capacities as to how they are different, what they do, if they volunteer, if they take care of people, because it's 6 years, it's a long time, and we don't push them to participate in these activities, but we support all the activities. For instance, recently a group of students have built 4 beehives, and we have a honey production line at our faculty. All this brings people together and makes them better physicians, because communication with people, communication across professional and intellectual borders, or communications across age borders, is something that a high-quality physician has to master.
Regarding the Israeli students, from your experience, and especially after October 7th, do you think that the Israeli students feel supported, welcome in the Czech Republic, feel safe in the Czech Republic?
Well, I'm not a big patriot, but I must say after October 7th, I was very proud of my country, of our citizens, of our government. Czech Republic is historically a very strong supporter and friend of the State of Israel, as from 1948, and this has shown after October 7th. So it's not just the faculty, it's the country as such. There is a very high level of support for Israel, and naturally this reflects to universities and to individual faculties. When I speak with our Israeli students, they often say, when I go to London, or when I go to Germany, or when I go to Austria, I'm afraid to speak Hebrew in the streets. In Prague, I'm not. I'm not afraid to speak Hebrew, and I feel safe here. This is more a question for them, but this is the feedback I'm getting from them.
It's very good to hear. What are the faculty's future plans? Let's say if you look at the faculty 7-10 years from now.
We have got big plans in developing the infrastructure. We are building a new building. Actually, this building will be a students' building with classrooms and student facilities. Also, we are expanding the number of teaching hospitals that are affiliated to us. So because we feel, and that's the feedback we have from our students, that we need more and more capacities for clinical teaching to be able to decrease the number of students in clinical study groups.
Mm-hmm. So when this will happen?
In 2-3 years, I think the building will be done, and the new teaching hospitals, they are recruited as we talk. Also, as from next academic year, under the new accreditation, we'll have a change in the class teaching in the 6th year, and every student will have this elective period of 6 weeks, where he or she will be expected to spend them at a clinical unit by their choice, usually that clinical unit with specialization students want to undertake, or in the country they want to work.
Mm-hmm. So before we finalize our conversation and speak about the requirements to be accepted, what is if you need to say like in 2-3 sentences, what is the DNA? What makes the faculty special in your eyes?
Well, apart from a highly practical way of teaching, being as close to physicians' thinking as possible, it is the stress we put on the role of the community, of supporting the students by the faculty, the students amongst themselves. So I can say, and we have, I didn't speak about it, but we have a very robust student supporting service net. So I just can say that with us, you will never be alone. You won't get lost in the system.
Yeah. Good to know. So for the potential applicants, what are the requirements to be accepted to the faculty?
Most of the students are accepted via entrance exams. These entrance exams are formed by a written part, that is a test in chemistry and biology, MCQ test with one correct answer. Then those who reach the designated number of points, correct answers, proceed to the oral part, which is an interview that looks at the motivation, but also we look at the ability to work with unknown scientific text that is presented to the students.
All right. I think that this is a lot of information for the potential applicants and very interesting. Thank you, David, very much, and hope to see you very soon in Prague, or actually in the pre-study camp in Dubrovnice.
The freshers camp next week.
Yeah.
See you there.
ואנחנו נתראה בפרק הבא. להתראות לכולם.